Very much, Senator Cantwell, and thank you to Senator Wicker. Welcome, Mayor Pete. I want to thank you for being here. I think you know how excited I am about your nomination and what a great transportation secretary you will be. I know you well, and I can attest to all my colleagues what a forward-thinking and thoughtful secretary you will truly be in a very important area for all of us and for our nation. And John and I also look forward to seeing you and Chasten in a less formal setting outside of this hearing room. And I appreciated what you said about transportation safety. It was in my state that the 35W bridge collapsed in the middle of a summer day. Bridge just shouldn't fall down in the middle of America. We lost 13 people and many injured. And I guess I would start with that. Can you talk about your priorities for safety? You mentioned to the chairwoman, and I agree, incoming chairwoman, and I agree with her about rail crossings, aviation, but maybe you want to mention bridges a little. You and I talked about the Blotnick Bridge going from Duluth to Superior, Wisconsin, the second largest bridge in my state that needs rehabilitation. We need to do work on that. Just any comments you have on bridge safety as well as in general.
Yes, first of all, thanks for the kind words and the warm welcome. And I agree. I remember how outspoken you were at the time of that bridge collapse, and that just shouldn't happen, as you've said. And so often states and counties, other local governments are expected to maintain these bridges, but don't have the resources to do it. And so it's another example of how we need a major and significant investment as a safety concern to enhance, upgrade, and maintain bridges and other key critical infrastructure assets across the country.
I've been leading a broadband bill that is not going to be all under your jurisdiction. The one important piece of it is, which is how we figure out as we invest in more broadband, which we know we so sorely need through this pandemic and before, and I know you've devoted a lot of thought to this, but we also, and when we do road construction, we can do a better job of laying the broadband lines at the same time. It's called Dig Once, and I wonder what thoughts you have on that.
Yeah, this is very important in my own community. Parts of South Bend have phenomenal broadband fiber connectivity for the simple reason that somebody remembered to lay conduit alongside some of the railway and highway right-of-ways that connected us to Chicago to the west. And so even if this is being driven by another department, I would welcome the opportunity to make sure that DOT's side of the equation is open to supporting that broadband deployment because it's so important in so many communities.
One thing I know you also understand is the rural areas. You have big rural areas in Indiana, and the Senator Thune touched on this a bit, but for build grants, capital investment grants, just talk about your priorities to making sure those go out in rural areas. We have a lot, I see Senator Tester here, a lot of senators here with areas with significant rural areas.
So several things I think we can do to make sure that rural communities have access and equitable access to those grants. One is to make them more user-friendly. Another is to ensure that the criteria are very clear and that there's feedback. We know how it is for my community to be a runner-up sometimes in these processes, and the better your feedback is, the more you can come back the next time and have a better shot at it. Of course, the more resources go in to begin with, the more folks can get that favorable answer right away.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think going back to what used to be called earmarks, they could be called congressionally initiated projects, would be helpful, especially for some of the rural areas, because we have a good sense of what's going on in our states. You have done the work with, which was brought up before, Smart Streets, your initiative to help improve safety, revitalize downtown South Bend. And actually, on a bipartisan basis, I've been leading that recreational trails program funding. Thank you for the note about my hair sticking straight up, Doug. That was nice. Thank you. That was really nice and subtle. But in any case, the recreational trails project is something that actually the program applies to both recreational vehicles that are non-motorized and motorized, like snowmobiles, ATVs, and we've worked this interesting coalition with motorized, non-motorized for bikes and other things as well. So could you talk a little bit about that? That funding has been really important, especially in this pandemic where people are looking for recreation like that.
Yes, and thanks for your leadership on this. There are so many ways that people get around, and I think often we've had an auto-centric view that has forgotten historically about all of the other different modes. And we want to make sure anytime we're doing street design that it enables cars and bicycles and pedestrians and businesses and any other mode to coexist in a positive way. And we should be putting funding behind that.
All right, excellent. Well, as I said, we're excited that you are willing to serve and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Blunt.
Is this okay with you guys?
Can you give us an update on efforts to reach an organizing agreement between Democrats and Republicans?
Well, I know they're negotiating, all day, and we got to get this done. I mean, this is a very bipartisan committee, so we're able to work this out easily with Senator Cantwell and Senator Wicker. But that won't be true in all of them, and we've got to be able to have an organizing agreement to get started and pass very important pandemic legislation and get these nominees done and all kinds of things.
Trajectory right now for nominations, not just the less controversial ones, but the more controversial ones?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think we're in a really good place right now. I think the inauguration yesterday put us in a good place. Mayor Buttigieg had Senator Young from his home state, a Republican there, to introduce him. Senator Wicker already signaled his support for him, so I don't know how much better that one could be going, and Pete's doing a great job in there. The other ones, I've heard the hearings went well. I think that Joe Biden has put together an excellent cabinet. So I think that that's a good thing, and we'll be able to move from there.
Do you have any indication of when nominees for these cabinet secretary positions might start coming to the floor and who is in what order?
No, I can't tell you that. Now, obviously, we're going to put the ones forward immediately where we have bipartisan support, as happened yesterday with Avril Haines.
And any indication on when?
Do you want to have someone else ask
Senator,
one?
on the timing for the impeachment trial, within the caucus, what is the sense of what is more ideal? To do it as soon as possible, to wait until some of these nominees are through? I know that Schumer has said that he wants to do both at the same time, but
Well, I don't think that's out of the question. That's up to Mitch McConnell, but I would say that he has signaled a willingness to McConnell has allow this impeachment hearing to go forward. And why can't we juggle things? We just have to have an agreement. You could even do it in a way where you didn't have a unanimous agreement. You could have a vote on it, but the agreement would simply be how to proceed with the impeachment hearing. You could literally have nomination hearings and nomination votes in the morning. You could have the impeachment trial in the afternoon, which would, of course, mean we couldn't have hearings at that time. And then in the evening, you could vote on legislative matters. We could do that for a change. The American people are doing it every single day. They're juggling their toddlers on their knees and their laptops on their desk. They're teaching their first graders how to use mute buttons to learn to read. I just see no reason that we have to keep using some archaic way of doing business when America is struggling and juggling stuff themselves, why we couldn't do it. I got to go now. Thank you. See ya. Thank you.
Mr. Warnock. Aye. Mr. Hickenlooper. Aye. Mr. Padilla. Aye. Ms. Klobuchar. Aye. Mrs. Murray. No. Mr. Wyden. No. Ms. Rosen. No. Mr. Johnson. Aye.
Yes.
Mr. Blunt. Aye. Mr. Booker. No. Mr. Paul. Aye. Ms. Murkowski, aye.